you'll drop me a line. We'll do something in person at the beautiful local studio on one end of that Manhattan Panhandle or the other.
I'm actually thinking of visiting Florida just for personal reasons, just to like kind of see what's going on there. Like I would meet up just for like a personal discussion, but without it actually being on record or anything like that. But yeah,
sounds good. It would be, first of all, Florida's amazing if you don't mind flatness, humidity, and heat. But like the joke that I have is not even a joke. It's just everybody's happy here. And I asked somebody, I came back from Canada, and it's just like, it's a different ambiance. And the guy's like, yeah, we live where people vacation. It's an amazing place. And the fishing is great. The beaches are beautiful. And it's spiritually free. So for whatever it's lacking by way of mountains and fresh water, and for its hazards of gators in the canals, it's a politically and spiritually free state, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, of course. Not to be confused with the Florida Man thing, which is just a result of transparency in terms of news. It's like you can publish these kinds of things, even though it's not normal elsewhere. You could probably assume that in New York there are crazier things going on, or anywhere else there are crazier things going on than anything like Florida, for instance. I think Florida gets a bad rap as a result of that. But yeah, I mean, I know several people that live there. I know one person who's a aerospace engineer. He's a really cool dude, and he doesn't strike me as odd. He strikes me as odd in a good way, wherein he somehow is this, relatively older individual who somehow understands the terminology of modern individuals, which is quite odd. It's like the way he does that. And he sometimes tells me jokes that I find are risky. It's like, this is something that 18-year-old me would say. Like, how are you doing that? It's like, so yeah, I have good experience with Florida. So.
Yeah, no, it's great. But we'll see. It might be the last stronghold, depending on what happens when the world. Everyone thinks cataclysmic and like the fall of Rome, but out of the fall of Rome came Italy and other nations. So no matter, I like to hope that no matter how bad it gets, it'll still be good. But we'll see.
And even in the end, it's. Was Earth nice? Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's kind of a thing. Can you imagine? Like, it was the idea of like, yeah, someday there will be no trace in the cosmos of our human existence, and I can't think of anything more terrifying than that.
I think there might be a trace. It'll just be different. Things evolve over time as well, and I think before, even. How do I explain this? Like, even like this. Even before or anywhere close to the expansion and then eventual collapse of the sun, I think human biologics will be extinct. So it's a frightening thing, but I think we will just be transformed into something else, and I think our technology will effectively allow us to do that, where we just kind of take on a different form of biologic. That I kind of feel like is what might happen to us, because that's kind of where I see evolution going in general. And ironically enough, there's this funny meme in evolution where things tend to crabs, where like everything evolves back into crabs for some reason. No idea why this happens, but like we could be crabs in the future. I don't know. Like, what are these really tall, skinny figures? Well, now we have armor.
I could appreciate the idea that the transformation could be into energy, and to some extent. I don't know if there's like an atomic memory that human existence will be transformed into energy. I could envision that. The one thing I've done, in as much as I constantly think of and fear death, it does lead you to think, contemplate what occurred in whether or not we're up to 14 or 20 billion years before I was born. Like, I had no knowledge of that, and what is all that going to? That's where the mind gets blown, and where you try to appreciate that, and it's unfathomable or inconceivable.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be that's also something. I'm a person who doesn't like the end. I believe in the new beginnings as a result of an eventual end. It's like how I cope with the understanding of an end. I'm not sure if you were there when I was on the Space with Alex Jones just weeks before the solar eclipse. Everybody thought that demons are going to come through a portal or some shit. Remember that? Like, I was there and I actually had a conversation with that, and they were like asking me, "What do you think? Like, what do you think about all of this?" And I said, "Dude, you just gotta be calm. But there's really no need to panic. You know, your ancestors panicked about this because they didn't knew what it was, and you know, your ancestors, even the Mayans, feared this primarily not just because the occurrence itself was odd, but it would herald an act by the humans there to start sacrificing people. It's like, that's not a good thing. So of course you'd be warranted to fear this thing coming, not just because you think this is like retribution of the gods, but one of your number is going to die. You know, and in a brutal way, as a matter of fact. So that would be the fear that your ancestors had. So instead of, you know, succumbing to the same fear of your ancestors, why don't you just go there and enjoy it? You just look at it.
Well, I mean, that's
Cool
another
cosmic experience,
interesting way of thinking about why there is that propensity every time that it's ingrained in our DNA that we have this feeling, and it just materializes in a more technologically savvy way now that we can formulate. Oh, it's not a total mystery. We know what's happening, but something cataclysmic is going to